Well, welcome back to another Coffee and a Chat. I've got my coffee here in my I Miss My Daughter cup because this is her favorite coffee cup, and she left it with me last time she was here as her pledge and promise that she would return. Anyway, and I've talked about pledges and promises, the scriptural basis of those before in other videos, but I added some peppermint into my coffee this morning, and that is the best. My sad thing with coffee, because those of you that have been here a while know, I love coffee. I've been attached to coffee since I was probably about 2 years old, thanks to my grandma Hopkins, who also loved her coffee. But because of some of the things I'm having with my health and all, I'm probably going to have to cut back to 1 at most 2 cups a day. Pray for me. That is not an easy task for me, but I've cut back, and I'm seeing that it does make a difference. So yeah, I'm gonna be facing that this year. But I want to talk about something else because we're still coming into the new year. Today is January 2nd of 2026. Whew. Man, I remember when I didn't even think 1977 would happen. It was so far in the future, but here we are. Okay, so I was going through some this folder I have, and in it I have a bunch of things that I have kept, that I wrote about or whatever over the years, and memories that I didn't want to lose, and I've been slowly putting a lot of those memories right here on YouTube, because I want to share them with you too. And so what I found today is a dream I had in May of 2004. So it's been almost 22 years ago. And this dream, when I read about it, I can still see it. As I read it, I can still see parts of that dream, even though it was so long ago. I'd forgot about it. But it's kind of just hit my heart this morning of, when we come into the new year, we're often, I don't make New Year's resolutions anymore because all that was a guarantee by the 5th of January. It was out the window. But I do like to reflect on the previous year. And I do like to look at, maybe hopes and dreams and changes I can make to better myself in the coming year. And, one of them being for me this year is that I need to cut back on coffee, and which means instead of 1 or 2 pots of coffee, I can only have 1 or maybe 2 cups, and to better my physical health. Okay, to improve some of the things I'm battling. So we're going to try it and see if it makes a big difference. And I think it's going to make a noticeable difference. But, this dream made me think about things spiritually and, things that I would like to do moving forward spiritually to be a better servant of Christ. I think that's probably the best way to put it. So in this dream, and I read through it, and so hopefully I'm going to recall it better. I don't remember who the woman was, but in the dream, I had gone to the house of a woman I know. She had invited me over because she was doing some renovating, and she wanted me to see what was taking place in her home. And so as I walked into her home, the first thing I noticed is the furniture and all her personal items like pictures and things, they were gone out of the house. And in its place, it was like air was blowing through this house, okay? And there was a movement of air, but there were these big billowy sheets of beautiful fabric. And I had wrote down in here, because it was hard to describe It wasn't just regular fabric. And when I wrote it down, I had written that it reminded me of like kingly robes, of royalty or something. Big, big pieces of fabric that were being hung from the top of her home, from the roof and coming down into the room, and they were just billowing, and they were everywhere. And the further I went into the home, the more there was. It's like it was, progressively taking place. And I could see people in there, like these workers that were hanging more of these drapes of fabric. And I was just like, it took my breath away. The beauty of this place and the feeling in her home was so incredibly peaceful. And so as we were walking, and she was all excited, do you see what's happening? And the front door was like, it was there, but it was like open or something, because there were people walking down the street that just started, because these robes began to, because they were like robes, but these big pieces of fabric, they began to blow out that front door, and people going down the street and stuff started to come into her home, like, maybe they were walking into this castle or something, and they're looking like, wow, they were in so much awe of what they were seeing. And as they began to come in and look around and just be so overwhelmed with just even the atmosphere of the home and this fabric and all, they were just, walking around in this awe. And I looked at her, and she fell to the floor, okay, almost as if she had fainted, but she wasn't unconscious. And I realized she had fell like she was in worship before her king. And I knew that what I was feeling in this house was the presence of God. And so I woke up out of that dream, and I knew it was a significant dream, and that's why I had written it down. And I was like, started to write my impressions of what I felt of this. And what I felt was that all the furniture that was being, that had been removed from the house was like all these cares of life, all the, burdens that she was bearing, and things that she was caught up in, because you got to have a bed to sleep on, right? You got to have a couch to sit on. You've got to have this, you've got to have that. And, all the things that were in her life, because you gotta. And then all the personal items, like her pictures and her little knickknacks and things that had disappeared from it, were like all her wants and desires and stuff. And it's like it had all been cleaned out of this home, and these priestly, kingly robes of fabric were being hung and filling this home, and billowing, and just like they were like calling you in, drawing you in, and and creating this movement of air in the room that had so much peace. Like when you went in there, you didn't want to leave. And, and you're looking at it like, I've never seen anything so amazing in my life. And I was like, it was all being replaced with the presence of God. And it's like that home, that house was her life. And there was less and less of her that was there to be seen and witnessed, and more of the presence of God. That God's influence and presence in her life was so filling that there wasn't so much room for all her, keeping up with the Joneses, as we used to say, and having the things that people say you've got to have, and doing the things people say you've got to do. But it was just becoming all about Jesus. And I, like I said, that was, over 20 years ago that I had that dream. And yet, as I started to read it, it's like, oh, I remember that dream. I remember, these things in these colors that I couldn't even describe the color and the shimmer. and and just how even when a cloth would like brush against you, it was like, oh, like you just received a sweet kiss on the cheek or a hug around you, your arms, and the peace that was there is like I just knew that that was the presence of God. And so as I read this morning, I'm like going, you know what? Because I had put when I wrote about it that I want to be more like that I want to be so committed to Christ that there's more of him than there is of me, and that all my stuff just kind of falls by the wayside, that I don't go out and try to put things into my life just to have something there because I want it, but that it's for the purpose of serving Christ. That I think I had mentioned that yesterday, that some things you don't do for money. Some things you do to be a blessing and to minister to someone. I want to be more focused on being a blessing into someone else's life for the cause of Christ than I am in trying to build my own little kingdom. I don't need a kingdom. I don't need a lot of stuff. And it comes at a funny time, to read about this dream, because the last year or so, and as I'm continuing on, I've been going through things and cleaning things out and trying to get rid of the stuff that just becomes clutter or dust collectors, that if it doesn't serve a purpose, if it's not necessary or something that we need, I don't want it anymore. And, I've been wanting to simplify my life more because, oh my word, I can breathe so much better. I packed up some stuff a couple of days ago to go to donation, that some knick-knack type things that they're really pretty and all. But like I even forgot that they've been sitting on that shelf for so long. The only time I remember is when I have to dust them off, which they had needed to be dusted off a long time ago. So I washed the layers of dust off of them. That's how forgotten they were. And I'm like, these are going to donation. I mean, they're pretty to look at and all, but it takes up time of maintenance that I just obviously don't have to give. And it's not serving a purpose, and somebody else, this will be a blessing to them and stuff. So, so I wrapped them up carefully because they're glass and fragile, and packed them up, and they will be going next week. Or will they go? No, I think, yeah, I don't remember what day Marvin said he was going, but I'm trying to he's going sometime here soon. Might be tomorrow. So I've got to get my stuff together so that, it's ready to go to donation. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of share this with you again, hoping maybe it inspires some of you that, from this point forward, it's not just about this year, but from this point forward, I want to work more purposefully on, as I've been cleaning out my house, cleaning out my life of things that just don't need to be there anymore. The things that I just worry about. I wish I could get rid of doing taxes, having to do my taxes, because that thought occurred to me like, oh yeah, yesterday it's time to start getting all that ready to go to the accountant. Oh great, I hate having to do all that, and I can't do away with it because I still have to pay taxes and report taxes and all that, or report income and all the things that we do for taxes. So file my taxes each year. But it started to feel like a stress to me. And it's like, no, it's not a stress. I've got all my paperwork together. I've just got to put it in order so that my accountant can just fill in the blanks, and it is what it is, and away we go. So I can't lay down my taxes, but I can lay down that tendency to worry and to fret about it, because that doesn't do me any good. It doesn't get me anywhere. And I can just trust the Lord, because he's the one that told me, look, as the paper comes in, the paperwork that you need at the end of the year comes in, just put it all in this folder so that when the year comes to an end, it's all there together. And I'm like, that's brilliant. I give God credit for that one, not me. So I don't have to go looking for things and going through all these, I've just been putting it all together in this folder, and, hopefully I haven't forgot anything, but it'll all be okay. It always is okay. It really is. You just have to do what you got to do, and the outcome is what the outcome is, and you deal with that when it comes to it. But all this fretting about it, I don't need to do that. I can surrender to the peace of Jesus Christ and just be responsible, do what I need to do, and trust him. And that goes for a lot of areas of my life, of not carrying so much stress. I'm supposed to be not being so stressed. I'm supposed to be lessening my stress. And whenever I'm told that, I'm like, okay, good. How do you do that? How do you stop stressing? And so I went to the Lord, and that coffee's so good. I cherish this one cup today. But I went to God, and I'm like, what do you want me to know? What do I need to know and learn here about not worrying and not being stressed out? And because there are stressful things that happen in life. So how do I do that? And all these scriptures just started coming to my mind, and a lot of them. And I started writing them down as they came. And that's on another piece of paper in a folder. But the one that really stuck out to me is cast all your cares upon me because I care for you. And, well, when you really got to do it, and you got to get practical, and it's not just this nice verse that sounds good, but you got to put it into action, then it's like, okay, well, what does that look like? How do you, literally, how do you cast your cares onto you, Lord? How does a person do that? And I don't have an answer. I do not have an answer because he just kept saying, trust me, trust me. Okay, so as these worries or anxieties or whatever start coming on me, I just stop. When I recognize what's happening, I'm just stopping. I'm going, okay, Lord, you said to cast my cares upon you because you care for me. So I don't know what that is, but right now I am just speaking it out, that I'm taking all these cares, all these worries, and I'm putting them into this bundle, and now I'm just casting them onto you. So whatever that really means, whatever that really looks like, I don't know how to do it. So I'm just doing something out of faith. And it's actually working. It actually makes a difference. Like, I am feeling a lot of that stress go on. I was talking the other day about, one of the things that that was hard to deal with in 2025, and hopefully it's all come to an end now, but I had to fill out a financial report with a thing with the government, okay? And they were claiming they gave me some money. They didn't give me. They gave it to somebody else, and they want to know what I did with that money. Well, I didn't do anything with it because they never gave it to me. Okay, this is stressful to me. I mean, actually, right now in this moment, it's not, because God's, I've cast it upon him, and I'm not feeling that stress. But I have all the paper trails. I can show everything I did, and, and where everything is, and everything had to go into a special bank account so they can even look there and see. They never put the money in there. And so I had filled out my first report and made some errors on that. Then they asked me for a second report because that one wasn't accounting for this other money. And I'm like, because I never got it. And anyway, this time when I did the second one, I felt to put down, please, when I said, you did not send me this money. And this time I added, please check your records. And I underlined it and highlighted it. And I think the first report actually just was fed into a computer. I don't think an actual human sat down with that report. Now, the second one, I have a feeling an actual human sat down to try and figure out what the problem is. And, and so when I finally did everything and got everything right, felt really good about it, and, and wrote things out the way I thought maybe they would understand what I was trying to say. I didn't understand why they didn't on the first one, but like I said, I don't think a human actually saw that report. So when I did the second one, I was talking to Marvin and I said, what do I really have to worry about here? What's the worst is that they will audit me, and I have all the paperwork that I can show exactly what came in and what went out and where it went. I have all the paper trails, all the receipts. I can account for every penny that they sent me, just like I'm supposed to, okay? But I can't account for money they didn't send me. So I will have to sit down with an actual human being that will have to sit there and go, oh, okay, because they can look at the actual bank account with the bank statements and see, not only did they not send me that money, that account wasn't even opened yet when they were saying they were sending me money, because they weren't sending me money, and I couldn't open the account without without a letter from them telling the bank to open the account for. It's way too confusing and way too difficult, but I'm not worried about it. What do I have to, and that in itself, that whole experience kind of opened my eyes to how many things overwhelm me. And it also showed me that sometimes, because I'm trying to help people out, I overextend myself, and I don't see that I can't help everybody. I can only, do so much. And so that has made me also being more conscious of the difference between just helping people for the sake of helping them and when God sends someone to me to try to help them. That's not an issue. That's not a problem, because I'm not going to tell God no. I've told him no in the past. That never worked out good for me. But in my life, when I started listening to him, which the really big one, and it has changed my life completely, was Marvin. Because after my first husband didn't want to be married to me anymore and wanted to divorce and all that, which I never, ever thought I'd be divorced, because I did stay through all kinds of things because I didn't want to ever be divorced. But this became clear that I needed to be, and I did. It ended up actually, all these years later, I can tell you it was a blessing. And if I was going to thank my first husband for anything, it would be, I would thank him for telling me he didn't want to be married anymore and divorcing me, because that was probably one of the best things he ever did for me. And what God's done with it. I mean, at the time, I never believed it could be this. But when it came down, and I started seeing what was available in men, and this was in the church, because I was going to several churches, because I spent more time in church than I did anywhere else, and I needed to. I was a mess. I was a wreck. And so the men that I knew and the men that I met, they were in church. And I quickly figured out that any of them, I would just be back in the same horrible situation that I had been to begin with. So I'm like, okay, so I can't even find a good man at church. I obviously attract abusive people, and I don't know what to do. And so I gave up, and I told the Lord, and I didn't look anymore. I wasn't interested. I kind of became kind of rude to me. Ask Marvin. Yeah, it's a miracle that man talked to me. But I told the Lord that I wasn't going to look anymore, because obviously I don't know what I'm doing. So unless he brought someone to me, sat him down in front of me and said, this one here, marry you, I wasn't going to do it. I was done. It would just be me and Jesus. I'd be so lonely. I thought I would. But it would be okay, because as long as I've got Jesus, I've got everything I need, I'll be okay. And it was after that, And after some time of, I'm done, okay? And figuring out how I'm going to go forward in my life alone, single, for the rest of my days, that God brought Marvin into my life. And then, not only did he bring him into my life, but over the course of a little bit of time, he set him down in front of me and said, here, this one, marry him. And so I knew Marvin was God's choice for me. And I can remember one day Marvin and I were talking, and we were engaged at this point, and there was some stuff going on, and it was, when we got married, I mean, we were engaged for a year before we got married, because I wanted to be sure that we went through a whole year, all the anniversaries, all the holidays, whatever, to make sure everything was really cool in this, because that we were both hearing from God, right? But I knew I was, and so there was a stress thing that had come up, not between Marvin and I, but an outside stress coming in because Marvin and I were getting married. And so he said, look, are you sure you want to do this? Because it's sacrifice, and it's loss, and you're going to have to move. You'll be moving 3,000 miles away from everyone and are you sure that you really want to do this? And I was like, God brought you to me. You're his gift to me. That means you're the best out there for me. Why would I say no to that? And he's like, okay, I just don't want you to feel obligated. I want you to know that if this is too much, I understand, but, and I said the same thing to him at times, look, if this is too much, I understand. And if you really don't want, and he was like the same way. Are you kidding me? God brought us together. This is a God thing. God is the foundation of our relationship. I want it. And so here we are. We will have been married 12 years this summer. And just the difference of being in a marriage that God put together is amazing. And it reminds me every day the importance of what God wants, not what I want, and following his will, not my will. So, yep, my thing from this day forward, I want to be more purposeful and more consciously making choices and decisions that cause the presence of God in me to be greater than who I am. That when because people, as they were attracted in that dream by this billowing fabric, which was the presence of God, they were attracted to this woman's house, to her life, because the testimony was there. That's what I want. I don't need anybody to be attracted to me. Maybe that's part of why I don't care so much about wearing makeup or fixing my hair up or getting my nails done or wearing fancy clothes, because I don't care about anybody being attracted to me. If they have any attraction here, I want it to be Jesus in me. So, yeah, that's my thing today. As I'm reflecting on last year and looking to the new year, and this dream, finding this old dream was very timely. I wonder how that worked out. I wonder who was in charge of that, right? I just read this scripture the other day, how God delights in every detail of the lives of his children. God cares about us, and he cares what we do and what we have and how we feel about things and the desires of our heart. He really cares. So, okay, now I've shared that with you, and I'm telling you, I love you, and I hope you have an awesome day today, and I'll be talking to you again real soon. Okay, and I hope the next time you see me, you can see a little more of Jesus than you could see today. That's my desire. All right, love you guys.